Hey friends, I live on a cul-de-sac. Right there outside my window is a basketball goal and a house across the street. And me and my buddy years ago began swapping out who was going to pay for a basketball goal for, our kids. One of the basketball goals would break, the other one would replace it. And anyway, kids come not only from the neighborhood, but they come from other neighborhoods to come and play here. Some of them, there's no problems with them at all. And other groups, they're full of profanity, and they play loud music, and they yell and they scream and do stuff like that. And I've been dealing with that for the whole 20 years that I've been here. And yes, I'm absolutely exhausted by it. But God gave me a challenge yesterday, which was also a gift. And I just wanted to share this with you. Yesterday, the particular group that was out there playing was a group of high school boys. 3 of them were bigger than me. And they were just using so much profanity. And I've got the window open because it's actually a beautiful day. It feels great outside. There's kids in the neighborhood a lot. My wife, comes in and out, and I'm just tired of it. It used to be that kids knew that profanity was not, if you're going to use profanity, you reserve it for private spaces. But now, every word is, there's nothing that's sacred in anything anymore, the way that we dress and all that, the way that we speak. So anyway, after an hour and a half of sitting here listening and just getting upset about it, a righteous anger, I realized there is a fear in me of going and engaging them. Reason being is I've had to do this over the years many, many times. I've also got a tire swing that I put up in the cul-de-sac over here where we host Fight Club. And there's always a risk that these kids will then vandalize my house. Steal something, break something, and I'm always aware of that. But the issue was fear. The issue was feeling paralyzed, like, gosh, I'm trapped if I do nothing, and yet I'll be trapped if I do something else. And it reminds me, it's this really small manifestation of the issue that we're feeling with what's going on in the larger world right now. I was made aware, and I looked up yesterday, that the word Hamas is a Hebrew word that comes from Genesis chapter 6. That is when these powerful angelic beings looked at human daughters, saw they were beautiful, and then they began to basically marry and mate with them, and then produce these giants or these Nephilim. And that's very, very likely where the demonic spirits that we sadly have to entertain and put up with today in this life, in this age, that's where they came from. And so the word violence, there was violence in the land at that time, and God was grieved by the violence. Well, that word violence is Hamas. And the most repeated command in all of Scripture is do not be afraid. And of course, probably the one that our mind goes to most quickly is when Joshua and the spies from Israel go from the wilderness into the promised land, and they see God's promise for them is actually being kept or guarded by these giants, these Nephilim, these evil, violent beings, these beings filled with Hamas. God says, don't be afraid. And you've got a couple of brave sons like Joshua and like Caleb, and then the other ones were cowardly. And I'm being, I'm aware that what we are being invited at this time to do is we have to choose how we're going to handle the fear. And I've just been thinking a lot about it. They call this group of people terrorists, and the point is to strike terror into the hearts of people so that they are paralyzed from doing what should be done. And on a very small degree yesterday, for an hour and a half, I wrestled with how I should deal with them, if I should deal with them. Eventually, I went down there, and I was reminded of the scripture here, Proverbs 26, 4 and 5. This is really, I've always enjoyed this passage, but it came to life a little bit better yesterday. I feel like the kids outside were being foolish. They're just young high school kids. But it's easy to be afraid of them because they could become little terrorists in the neighborhood, right? But this is what Proverbs 26, 4 and 5 says. Do not answer a fool according to their folly, lest you also be like them. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. And what I felt like God was saying to me as I was praying about the situation is, go down there, you need to talk to them, because otherwise they'll never know what authentic strength looks like. But don't do it according to their foolishness. Don't use bad humor. Don't stoop down to their level. Don't use profanity. Don't use condescension. You have to speak to them wisely, lovingly, and tactfully. And so I was praying the whole way down. In fact, I went out the door and I told Heather, hey, I'm going to confront these boys outside. Cover me. And came back in, and there was a strength that I felt having engaged the situation and walked out. Now, what they do, I don't know, but I gave them no excuse by the way that I cared for them and I loved them to retaliate in any way. But we'll see. And the funny thing is, for the next 5 minutes, it was almost quiet. They were like bouncing the basketball, but they couldn't figure out how to talk without using profanity. And eventually, after 5 to 10 minutes, they literally picked up their balls and they walked away. Like, they have to go and they have to learn how to engage and enjoy the freedom out there, but observe the boundaries. So, Lord, protect my house. I just want to invite you, in your own unique way, God is inviting you to process your fear. And I think, in his kindness, he's going to offer you these little opportunities to exercise your strength. And I just want to bless you. And I want to say, God, I know God is looking for strength and courage and love in all of us, his sons, for us to have that deposit of security in us, but also for us to be able to bring our strength in love to the rest of the world like Christ. I feel like I handled that yesterday like Christ. And he's inviting me to live fear-free in a world that's filled with people whose job, they believe, is demonically given to them to bring terror to the world. And I cannot live inside that. I have to learn in partnership with God to live outside it as you do. So, Father, bless us as we search to live in union with you, in harmony with you, and fear-free with you, God. Do not be afraid or terrified of them, because the Lord your God is with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. I believe that's Deuteronomy 31:6. Bless you. Bless you this weekend.